Have you ever wondered what it takes to defy an empire and change the course of history forever? Today, we're diving into the epic story of one man who did just that, Gaius Julius Caesar. This isn't just a tale of battles and politics. It's the story of a brilliant, ambitious, and utterly ruthless individual who clawed his way from the fringes of Roman society to become its absolute master. Born in 100 BC into a noble but impoverished family, Caesar's early life was anything but easy. Rome was a chaotic, violent place, ruled by powerful generals and cutthroat politicians. As a young man, Caesar was kidnapped by pirates. But instead of begging for his life, he laughed at their small ransom demand, insisted they ask for more, and then promised to return and crucify them all. And you know what? After he was freed, he did exactly that. This single event tells you everything you need to know about his character: audacious, confident, and relentless. Caesar knew that to succeed in Rome, he needed three things: money, military glory, and the love of the people. He started his political career by throwing lavish games and parties, putting himself deep into debt, but winning popular support. He was a master of public relations, positioning himself as a champion of the common Roman, a man who understood their struggles. His charm was legendary, and his speeches could sway even the most hostile crowds. His next move was to form an unofficial alliance with two of the most powerful men in Rome: Pompey the Great, a celebrated general, and Crassus, the richest man in the Republic. This first triumvirate was a secret pact to bypass the traditional political system and seize control. Together, they dominated Roman politics, carving up power and influence among themselves. Caesar secured the governorship of Gaul, modern-day France, which was his ticket to the military glory he craved. For nearly a decade, Caesar waged a brutal and brilliant campaign in Gaul. He wasn't just conquering territory, he was building an army. His legions became the most disciplined, battle-hardened force in the world, and their loyalty was to him, not to Rome. He shared their hardships, fought alongside them, and knew many of his soldiers by name. His dispatches from the front lines, the famous commentaries on the Gallic War, were masterful pieces of propaganda, sent back to Rome to keep his name on everyone's lips and celebrate his victories. The siege of Alesia is a prime example of his military genius. Trapped between a massive Gallic army inside the fortress and a huge relief force outside, Caesar built two lines of fortifications, one facing in and one facing out, and defeated both armies simultaneously. It was an impossible feat, a testament to his audacity and tactical brilliance. But back in Rome, his success was breeding fear and jealousy. The Senate, led by his old ally Pompey, grew terrified of Caesar's power and popularity. They saw him not as a hero, but as a potential king, a tyrant who would destroy the Republic. Crassus had been killed in battle, shattering the triumvirate and leaving Caesar and Pompey on a collision course. The Senate made their move. They ordered Caesar to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen, where he would surely face prosecution and political ruin. This was the moment of truth. Caesar stood with his 13th legion at the bank of a small river called the Rubicon, the legal boundary of his province. To cross it with his army would be an act of treason, a declaration of civil war against the Roman Republic. The ancient historian Suetonius tells us he hesitated, weighing the monumental consequences, then uttering the immortal words, "Alia iacta est," the die is cast. He led his soldiers across the river. There was no turning back. What followed was a lightning-fast civil war. Pompey and the senators, expecting a slow advance, were caught completely off guard. Caesar marched on Rome so quickly that they were forced to flee. He pursued Pompey across the Adriatic Sea to Greece, where the decisive battle took place at Pharsalus. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Caesar's veteran legions crushed Pompey's forces. Pompey fled to Egypt, seeking refuge, but was assassinated as he stepped ashore. A grim end for one of Rome's greatest generals. Caesar's arrival in Egypt plunged him into another conflict, a civil war between the young pharaoh Ptolemy XIII and his brilliant sister, Cleopatra. Famously, Cleopatra had herself smuggled to Caesar wrapped in a carpet. Captivated by her intelligence and ambition, Caesar sided with her, defeated her brother's forces, and placed her on the throne of Egypt. Their alliance was both political and personal, resulting in a son, Caesarion. After settling affairs in Egypt and putting down the last remnants of senatorial resistance in Africa and Spain, Caesar returned to Rome not just as a conqueror, but as its undisputed master. The Senate, now packed with his supporters, showered him with honors. He was made consul for 10 years, then dictator for life. He initiated sweeping reforms. He revised the calendar, creating the Julian calendar we still use a version of today. He planned massive public works projects, and he offered citizenship to people in the provinces. He seemed to be laying the foundation for a new kind of Roman state, one ruled by a single, benevolent authority. But to many traditional Romans, he was a tyrant who had murdered the Republic. His statues were erected alongside those of the ancient kings of Rome, and there were rumors he planned to declare himself a king for a group of senators, who called themselves the Liberators. This was an unforgivable betrayal of Roman values. Led by Brutus and Cassius, they believed the only way to restore the Republic was to eliminate Caesar. On the Ides of March, March 15th, 44 BC, they put their plan into action. As Caesar entered a meeting of the Senate, the conspirators surrounded him. According to legend, he fought back until he saw his trusted friend Brutus among the assassins. With the heartbreaking words "Et tu, Brute, you too, Brutus," he gave up the fight and fell at the foot of a statue of his great rival Pompey, stabbed 23 times. The conspirators believed they had saved the Republic, but they had gravely miscalculated. The people of Rome, who had loved Caesar, were enraged. His assassination didn't restore the old system. It plunged Rome into another 13 years of bloody civil war. In the end, it was Caesar's adopted heir, Octavian, who would emerge victorious, defeat his rivals, and, learning from Caesar's mistakes, subtly transform the Republic into the Roman Empire, becoming its first emperor, Augustus. So, did Caesar destroy the Republic? Or was it already a broken system, ripe for collapse? The truth is, Caesar was a product of his time, an age of incredible ambition and violence. He didn't start the fire, but he poured fuel on it and used the chaos to forge an entirely new world order. His life is a powerful, shocking, and timeless story of how one person's ambition can change the world, for better and for worse. His name has become synonymous with absolute power, and his legacy echoes through the centuries, a permanent mark on the history of civilization. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the life of Julius Caesar. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most epic figures. Let me know in the comments what you think. Was Caesar a hero or a villain? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time.